Doot, 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 doot. Oh, we're live. Hooray. Hello. I am continuing to work on this illustration of this little cat skull and its corresponding catnip flower. Get it? It's a thing. So, last time I drew it, I started the Inktense water-soluble inks on it, which I still have a little bit of work to do with those. I still have this whole section of the flower that I have not yet activated, so I'm going to do that, and then I'll move on to the next step. So let's see. Activate some of these little blossoms. You can see there's a few places I'm going to have to do another pass. Push some of that color all the way out to the edge, because those flowers are supposed to have that kind of like variation in them, where the edges are really dark and the middle is really light, practically white. So that right there, it tried to bleed into the middle, so I'm going to lift some of that out with my brush. And I have a little paper towel right here, so if I feel like there's a little too much water on my brush, I just kind of, especially these tiny little details, I don't want to flood them really bad and then have everything run all over the place. There we go. I think that's all the little flowers on there. So now I'm going to start working on the greenery some more. Hoping the power stays on for the entire stream. I don't know where you are, but where I am, we've been having a nor'easter all day. Lots of snow and wind and freezing rain. It's been a blast. All right, so I'm going to come up here to one of these leaves. I don't want to do the leaf right next to it, because then the water that I just put down here, they can blend together and I'll kind of lose that edge, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to come up here and work on this leaf up here. Work my way around the leaves on this little flower. And now that one, this right here should be dry. Yep, pretty much. So now I can come and love how vibrant these greens become once you hit them with water. And catnip's the type of plant that has this like central stem that everything kind of buds out of. There's a term for it, but I don't remember it. As much as I like plants, I'm not always very good at remembering all the little terms and nomenclature for these things. I just know it's a thing. All right, so at this point, all of the ink tense has been activated. So we've got a nice base of all our colors on here. What I'm going to do at this point then is, one thing is I'd like to kind of clean up some of these pencil lines. I don't really need all of those all over the place. So, oh geez, as I bang around, I'm going to find my Seen Better Days kneaded eraser and work it around until I find a spot that's not filthy. I do not want to smear a bunch of grossness across here. Hey, those are catnip flowers. That is actually catnip. It's missing the signature kind of reptile skin pattern to the leaves because I haven't gotten to the stage where I'm going to add that yet. But we'll get there before the evening's out, I'm pretty sure. So I'm just going to kind of lift out some of this graphite. As you can see, it's not doing anything to the ink. The ink is staying put. I'm just going to kind of clean up some of this graphite. It's just a little bit heavy. There's a few spots where I may go back over those lines, but not with the dark gray of the graphite. All right, that feels pretty dry at this point. I can come over here and get those. Yeah, it's a the line work does flatten it out a little bit, and the next stage should make it pop a lot more too. Because the next stage is going to be, so this is this whole like multi-stage process that I use for color work because I can't ever do anything like simple and straightforward. So now, as I reorganize my tools out of frame here, turn. No, can't turn it. Okay. This is what's coming next. The 90s called and they want their stationery organization back. Okay. Yeah, so in this very nostalgic little container here, which is actually excellent for this sort of thing, I have a whole bunch of colored pencils. My lovely Prismacolors. I wish you could smell through the screen. These things smell so good. But I need to put them somewhere where I can actually get to them. Okay, so the next phase is to take some of my colored pencils. Oh, that poor stub of indigo. Look at that thing. That's so tiny. Stop. Stay there. As I dig around for my colors, you know what, we'll take it out just in case so I'm not digging for it later. Where is the color I am looking for? Let's see, we're going to use this burnt ochre. I might. Yellow ochre is what I already have out, right? Yes. There's a couple of colors that I use a lot, and so I have multiples of them kicking around in here. I need that one. Do I have any not nubby ones of this? No. No, I do not. Okay. Where is my Tuscan red? Dang it. There it is. What do we have here? Aha! I do have one that's not that tiny. See, the thing is that when they're Prismacolor understands. They understand that their pencils are very nice and expensive, and so you will use them down to little nubs where you can no longer read the nicely printed name of them anymore. But they put the number on the very, very end, so you can see if you have the right one. Good thing. Okay. Okay, those are the colors I'm gonna mostly use. Let's get off of here without smudging everywhere, okay? So I use my sleeve like a brush. Now that I have mostly assembled my team, which I'll probably decide I need something else too, but for now, I am going to go through and start darkening and sharpening up some of these shadow areas. Just providing a little bit more crispness and definition in a few of these spots. And I'm kind of just going to pick one color at a time. So my holy trinity of these Prismacolors for coming back in and bumping up colors is yellow ochre, Tuscan red, and indigo blue. So this is yellow ochre, that's 942. Indigo blue is 901. And Tuscan red, oh no, Tuscan red doesn't have a call number on it. This is an old one. I'll have to find one that has the number on it. But if I dig one out that has the number, I'll let you know. But those are the dark red, yellow, blue that I use. So I'm just kind of going in and bumping up some of these areas, picking out some details here. I'm going to sharpen that real quick with my color side of the pencil sharpener. I'm just going to kind of work that. Use it to kind of bring back some of the lines in places where they've kind of disappeared when I did that erasing trick. Add a little bit of definition to these teeth. Add a little bit of definition to these teeth. And so a lot of the places I'm using the yellow, it's not like it's going to stay just yellow. This is just the first pass, and we're going to add more to it. All right, let's see. Okay, so I do one pass in the yellow ochre. So then I'm going to come through and I'm going to do a pass in the Tuscan red. And I really wish I had a numbered one. Oh, do I have one here? Yes, Tuscan red is 937. That's the number in case you wanted to look these up and try them on your own. Since this is exceptionally short and would be very difficult to hold in my hand without giving myself some kind of cramp, I'm going to use a pencil extender where you just kind of, oh, come on, stick that in there. You stick it in the end and then the collar moves up and that tightens it to hold it in place. And then you just hold the whole thing normally like you would a pencil. All right. And so then I very lightly come over with the red in areas where it needs to be a little bit darker, where I've already come over with the yellow. And you can see how that's starting to build that shadow up and you start getting a nice like brown tone here. And some of these areas I didn't do with the yellow, but that's because I'm going for a slightly different tone in them. Again, trying to get some definition in those teeth. It's just kind of very subtly bumping up those shadows. There we go. All right. Let's see. Do I want to use this red on anything else while I have it here at this point? Oh, yeah, I forgot to do the nasal cavity. Definitely don't want to forget that. That definitely needs a little bit more definition. That's helping there a lot. All right, add a little bit in here. Okay. All right, so then I'm going to move on to the indigo blue. This one right here. Again, I need my pencil extender because it is but a nub. So anywhere where I use the indigo blue, where I've already used the yellow ochre and the Tuscan red, it's going to almost give me like a black. Not quite actually black. It's a much richer color because it's actually made of red, yellow, and blue instead of just black. But it really helps to create that kind of deep shadow. And so this pass I'm going to do, where I do all three of them, is going to be very sparing. But there are areas where I need a little bit more bluer shadow, like down in here. Back here where I've got kind of a bluer tone going on. All right, I'm going to do a little bit up here. Okay, back here I think needs just a little bit. There we go. I think that helps make that pop forward a little bit more. I think I'll give the back of the skull just a tiny pass because I want it to be a little bit more like dull. Right now it's very bright. But very, very lightly. Just to add a little bit of that. I'm not sure what's going on there. I feel like that's not doing what it's supposed to do. We're gonna have to fix that. That's better. Okay. All right, so I did those. Those were the really important colors to help give that depth. Now I'm going to go through and just pick out a few more neutral colors in places where I want to use those. I'm not going to use the burnt ochre because that's a little bit too red. I am going to use the, oh my word, smacking into my camera. I am going to use the chocolate. That's 1082. That's another one that I really like. Which needs to be sharpened. but it's a nice neutral brown, like it's a little bit on the cool side. So I can use that to kind of continue to pick out some of these edges. Add a little bit more definition to the teeth here. There we go. I want to give a little bit more of a definition on that one. There we go. That's a little better. Okay, I'm gonna add just a little bit of this over here. All right, I think that's gonna do it for adding stuff to the background splash or shapes. No, so this actually is, for what it's ultimately going to be used for, is just kind of going to be a floating spot image. Because it is, if it were just a piece on its own, then yes, I probably would put some kind of background or, color or pattern behind it. But for where it is destined to go, like its ultimate destination, it is not supposed to have anything else behind it. Because this is an illustration for something, which I'll be vague about for now. All right, so now I'm going to come over here and start working on the flower, and I'm going to start with the indigo because that's what's already in my pencil holder, is why. I'm going to really pull this shadow here. You can see how nicely the indigo plays with green. It really helps to make that shadow come forward. Okay, so added a little bit of that blue all over the place on the flowers. I'm also going to add just a little bit of red in the deepest shadows. So not all the places I just did blue, just some of the very darkest shadows. Make them look a little more green by adding the yellow ochre. Okay, so that helped to give those a little bit of definition. Now I need to, so catnip leaves have this very distinctive like lizard skin type pattern to them. So I'm going to pull that up real quick because I don't have it pulled up ahead of time like I did last time. Yeah, so you can see it's got this like weird kind of almost like an alligator skin pattern to it. So we're going to try to replicate that as much as possible. Also, pro tip, if you want to sharpen your pencil, it's best to take it out of the pencil extender first, because if you don't, then it just kind of spins and it's annoying. It doesn't work very well. All right, so we kind of have these lines that go to these. I don't know if you guys can hear my furnace running through my microphone. It's so loud. Okay, but then between those, there's this pattern, but they don't line up. Oh, drawing board. And of course, I've got that situation going on. Gotta love it. So, Prismacolors are notorious for doing this, where the tip just, yeah, see, it's just, yeah, so those kinds of itsy bitsy details, unless you were doing like a very large piece where that's what you're doing. I usually find that it's easier to do with the colored pencil than to try to do with the Inktense in the first place. Oh, come on. Oh no, the tip broke again. Oh my word. Come on. Killing me. This is the eternal frustration with these nice, lovely, creamy, soft leads. Will you please just sharpen? All right. Please actually stay in there. Don't break again. All right. They can't line up because then it'll look weird and not natural. So they got to keep them like staggered ever so slightly because they don't line up. It's very weird. Gonna crisp up the edge of that leaf a little bit because that's looking a little squashy where that leaf ends and the other leaf begins. All right. Kind of a soothing little pattern to do once you figure it out. Give that little bit of shadow on the bottom edge of that leaf to make it look like it's curled down a little bit. Okay. All right, so that's what that looks like. Just a little bit of the tiniest little bit of definition to those little cells. Give that leaf a little bit of the blue on the underside too, I think, to enhance that curled down look. It's looking pretty good. Some of these I'm going to not do quite as much too because we want them further back, so we don't want quite as much definition on them. Whoops, I totally missed that leaf. I totally missed that little leaf up there. Whoopsie. All right. What are we at? We're at 40-ish minutes. Yeah, a little more than 40 minutes. This, like, you do relatively little as far as actually like putting medium on paper in this stage, but it's a lot of like little detail work, so it sometimes takes as long as everything else preceding it, which is a little bit goofy, but here we are. All right, I want to add just a little bit of local color here for the areas that I feel like just need a little bit of color correcting back toward green after some of the other colors may have overpowered them. That's better. Okay. And I'm going to do those little flowers. Give them a little bit more definition. Because I only do these streams for about an hour, so I don't want to be really far off from being done by the time the hour is up. All right. And those flowers let a chance to pop forward a little bit. I'm actually going to dig out a nice purple color to get off of there. There's like a chunk of colored pencil sitting where it doesn't belong. Take out this kind of variated edge detail on the little blossoms there. There we go. Those are looking much more floral. More floral now. Okay, so I want to pick out some highlights on those leaves with my white, which also needs to be sharpened. So just pick out a few little spots where I just want a couple little dots. They don't show up like super well over like a medium. They show up better over like a darker color, but just to help pick those highlights up a little bit. I think I want a bright yellow on some of the upper sides of the leaves too. Come back and do that next. Kind of help give that plant a little more definition. What is this? What is this? I sharpened this from the wrong end and I have no idea what color this is. I should have sharpened this end. Yeah, he's looking very nice. That leaf is looking quite charming. Brighten up some spots of it. Oh, and that pops really nicely with the purple too. Look at that. That helped a lot. That helped pop that back out quite a bit. Okay, so along with that, since I added some nice bright yellow highlights over here, we do want to make our skull look like it exists in the same lighting situation as the flower. So I'm just going to add just a tiny bit of that kind of bright yellow a few places so that they look like they belong together. So obviously I'm not going to use like the bright green or the bright purple because those are colors that don't make sense on the skull, but using a little bit of the yellow where I used that as a highlight over here, then coming back and using it over here in a few spots just helps to harmonize the two of them with each other so that it doesn't look like two completely unrelated objects that aren't even really sitting together. So we're into the last 10-ish minutes, so I will just remind anyone who may be watching of some things. I'm Amanda Call. This is my YouTube channel where I work on art. I do these live streams every Tuesday where you can watch me work on something. A lot of times it's one of my comic pages. The last 2 weeks it's been this illustration. Sometimes it's a random illustration. Sometimes it's an illustration for a game design project that I'm working on. You never know. But you do get to see me work on stuff, and I answer questions, talk about what I'm doing. It's a fun time. I'm often working on one of my comic pages. You can check out my webcomic at ageofnight.com. That's ageofnight.com. The whole thing is available for free on the internet, but you can also buy copies of it. I have PDF copies available on DriveThruRPG, DriveThruComics, and DriveThruFiction. There's physical copies signed at my friendly local bookstore, the Briar Patch. You just have to call them up. And you can, of course, buy them at the big giant online retailer where you buy everything. If you like watching these videos and want to help support me and support my comic and get free comics and previews and stuff, then you should check me out on Patreon. So that's patreon.com/ageofnight is where you can find me. And you can find me on all sorts of social media places too. You can find me on Twitter at Age of Night. You can find me on Instagram at Amanda Call Art. All right, I think that's pretty much going to do it. So, yeah, over the course of a little less than an hour, we went from only having most of the ink tents done to getting it finished. So you can see I finished up activating the ink tents and then went through and spent a lot of time just kind of pushing and pulling my values and enhancing my colors a little bit and adding some details with Prismacolor colored pencils. So just to review real quick in case you missed earlier, what did I just knock over? I just knocked something over. I don't even know. The other things that I used to put down the bulk of the colors, first off, were the Derwent ink tents. That's what I did last week, which is another live stream you can check out. So thanks everybody for coming and hanging out, and I will see you next time. Bye.